You open your kitchen cabinet. The rice is still there. The pasta is still there. A few cans are still sitting on the shelf, and the freezer is still full of meat. At first glance, you'd think your family is pretty well prepared. But try something very simple. Imagine the grocery store is closed for 3 days. Don't buy anything. Just cook with whatever you already have at home. That's when a lot of people realize something they had never really thought about before. The first thing you run out of isn't food, it's meals. You may still have plenty of ingredients, but they don't fit together well enough to make balanced meals for several days in a row. That's why today's list isn't built around the 12 cheapest foods or the 12 most popular ones. Every item has its own job. Some provide protein, some stretch your meals, some help you save water and fuel, and some make everything else in your kitchen actually work together. Make sure you stay until number 7, because it can replace one of the first foods you'll lose when the power goes out. And don't skip number 1. It's not the most expensive food or the one that stands out the most. But without it, a lot of the ingredients in your kitchen will struggle to become real meals. 12. Non-fat, dry milk. The power has only been out for a few hours. The lights are off, and everyone is trying to keep the refrigerator door closed so the cold air doesn't escape. The milk is still there, but you know its time is running out. An older family member still wants a glass of milk before bed. A child is still expecting the same familiar breakfast tomorrow morning. Your family isn't completely out of food. There's still rice, pasta, and canned food in the kitchen. What's missing is the one product that's always depended on the refrigerator. That's the gap non-fat dry milk can fill. Its biggest value isn't how closely it tastes like fresh milk. It's that you can still make a glass of milk anytime with nothing more than clean water, even if the power hasn't come back and grocery shopping is still disrupted. It helps your family maintain a source of protein and calcium when the refrigerated section is no longer something you can count on. Non-fat dry milk provides protein, calcium, and is often fortified with vitamin D and vitamin B12. Those nutrients become especially valuable when meals start revolving around rice, pasta, and shelf-stable foods. But its value goes beyond a simple glass of milk. Stir a little into oatmeal, and breakfast becomes higher in protein. Add it to mashed potatoes or soup, and the meal becomes richer and more filling. Mixed with flour, it can also become an ingredient for pancakes, flatbreads, or other simple baked goods. One package of dry milk doesn't just replace a few glasses of milk. It helps many of the other ingredients in your food supply do a lot more. Another advantage people often overlook is storage. While fresh milk takes up space in the refrigerator and begins losing its value once temperatures are no longer stable, dry milk can make many servings while taking up only a small spot on the shelf. However, if your goal is long-term storage, non-fat dry milk is usually a better choice than whole milk powder, because its lower fat content makes it more stable and less likely to turn rancid over time. That doesn't mean you should buy huge amounts. Choose a brand your family already uses, try it first, and rotate it regularly. Once opened, simply keep it tightly sealed and away from moisture and high heat to maintain its quality. Don't wait until the refrigerator stops working before you start looking for it. Dry milk can't completely replace fresh milk, but it can replace your dependence on the refrigerator. And when the power is still out, stores haven't reopened, or shopping is no longer easy, that's where its real value shows. But milk only solves the gap left by fresh foods. The next item solves a different problem. How do you get protein immediately without soaking, without cooking for hours, and without using too much clean water? That's why number 11 belongs to canned beans. 11. Canned beans. When people think about high-protein foods for emergency storage, they usually think of canned tuna, canned chicken, or canned beef. But one of the most practical choices comes in a can of beans that costs just a few dollars. Black beans, pinto beans, chickpeas, and kidney beans all have one thing in common. They're already cooked and ready to eat. When the power is out, fuel has to be conserved, and clean water is no longer plentiful. That becomes a major advantage. Just open the can, and you have a source of protein without soaking beans overnight or cooking them for hours. Canned beans provide plant protein, fiber, and nutrients like iron, potassium, and folate. The protein makes meals more satisfying, while the fiber helps keep you full and supports healthy digestion when your menu starts revolving around rice, pasta, and shelf-stable foods. But the biggest advantage of beans is their versatility. Black beans go well with rice. Pinto beans are perfect for burritos. Chickpeas become a simple salad with nothing more than a little cooking oil and salt. Kidney beans can go straight into soups or stews with canned tomatoes. With just one can of beans, a little rice, and some tomatoes, you've got a complete meal. This is also where it's worth taking another look at what cheap really means. Dried beans usually cost less by weight, but in an emergency, you also have to factor in the water, fuel, and time needed to cook them. A can of beans may cost a little more, but in return, you get a meal that's ready to use immediately. When every resource becomes valuable, that difference is worth far more than saving a few cents per serving. If you don't need to limit sodium, the liquid in the can can also be added to soups or stews for extra flavor and less waste. If your family needs to watch its salt intake, choose low-sodium varieties or give the beans a quick rinse before using them whenever conditions allow. Don't buy dozens of cans just because they're on sale. Choose the varieties your family actually enjoys and will use in everyday meals. When storing them, simply discard any cans that are swollen, leaking, or heavily rusted, and rotate your supply so the older cans are always used before the newer ones. Canned beans may not be the cheapest source of protein per pound, but when water, fuel, and time all become valuable, they're one of the most practical foods you can keep on your shelf. Canned beans solve the problem of ready-to-eat protein. But after several days of eating rice, beans, and canned meat, another problem begins to appear. Every meal starts tasting the same. The next item doesn't provide the most calories. It does something even more important. It turns simple ingredients into meals you'll still actually want to eat. 10. Canned tomatoes. After several days of eating rice, beans, and canned meat, the next problem is no longer the amount of food. It's how the food feels. Every meal starts to have the same color, the same texture, and the same dry, salty, heavy taste. The food is still on the shelf, but when mealtime comes, nobody is really looking forward to what's in the bowl. That's the gap many people don't notice until they've stored enough calories, but not enough variety. People don't just need something to eat. They also need to want to eat what they have. And that's where canned tomatoes become so valuable. A can of tomatoes doesn't provide as much energy as rice, and it doesn't have as much protein as beans or canned meat. But once you add it to the pot, it can completely change the meal. The tomato juices make dry ingredients softer and easier to eat. The acidity cuts through richness, balances saltiness, and adds depth to the dish. The red color makes a simple pot of food look more inviting. When tomatoes heat up with a little oil, onion, or garlic, the aroma fills the kitchen, making it feel like you're preparing a real dinner instead of simply reheating emergency food. Beans can become a hearty stew. Dry pasta can turn into a meal with sauce. Leftover rice can be cooked again with tomatoes, oil, and salt to create something completely different. Thin soup becomes richer. Even canned meat that's a little dry or salty becomes easier to enjoy when cooked with tomatoes. That's the real strength of this product. It makes your other ingredients more appealing. Over time, that's more important than many people realize. If every meal tastes the same, people may start eating less even though there's still food left, especially young children, older adults, or anyone under stress. At that point, flavor is no longer just about comfort. It becomes part of what helps people keep eating regular meals. Canned tomatoes also come in different forms. Diced tomatoes work well with rice, soups, and stews. Crushed tomatoes make a great base for sauces. Plain varieties let you adjust the salt, oil, and seasonings yourself. If you want flexibility, don't fill your shelves with heavily seasoned sauces. Simple products usually work in more recipes. Nutritionally, canned tomatoes provide vitamin C, potassium, and lycopene, but their most important role on this list is the moisture, acidity, color, and ability to bring basic ingredients together into a more complete meal. Because tomatoes are acidic, use and rotate them regularly. Don't keep cans that are swollen, leaking, or damaged around the seams. Before July is over, check whether you have enough different types of tomatoes to make different meals, or if all you have is one sauce that works for only one recipe. A food supply shouldn't just have enough calories. It should be varied enough that you'll still want to open the pantry and eat what's inside. Canned tomatoes solve the problem of monotony, but the next item is even smaller, even cheaper, and affects almost every meal on this list. 9. Iodized table salt. There's a reason so many people still have food left, but gradually start eating less after several days. It's not because they've run out of calories. It's because every meal starts to feel the same. Plain rice, plain beans, plain pasta. Everything becomes nothing more than ingredients to fill your stomach. That's when you realize the true value of salt. Salt can't become a meal by itself, but just a small pinch can change almost everything else in your kitchen. It brings out natural flavors, cuts down on monotony, and helps simple meals stay appealing enough that the whole family actually wants to finish them. That's more important than many people realize. On an ordinary day, skipping a meal because it doesn't taste very good may not seem like a big deal. But when your food choices become limited, making sure everyone still eats enough at every meal becomes what really matters. Iodized table salt also provides iodine when your diet becomes simpler and fresh foods become less available. You don't need an expensive brand or fancy packaging. A basic container of salt, kept dry and tightly sealed, can last a very long time while taking up almost no storage space. Interestingly, salt is almost always sitting on grocery store shelves. Because it's so familiar, many people never think to check it until the container in their kitchen is almost empty. But before a major storm or a widespread power outage, the basic items nearly every household needs often disappear much faster than people expect. Not because the country runs out of salt, but because thousands of people remember to buy it at the exact same time. That doesn't mean you should stockpile it. 1 or 2 containers rotated through your everyday use are usually enough to last a long time. If you need to limit sodium, continue following your doctor's advice. The goal isn't to eat more salt. It's to avoid running out of an ingredient that almost every meal depends on. Before July is over, open your kitchen cabinet and take a look at your salt. You don't need a shopping cart full of it. You just don't want to reach the day when every other ingredient is ready, but the smallest item in your kitchen is the one that's missing. Salt helps you want to eat the food you already have. The next item will help you stay full longer and stretch your more expensive ingredients even further. 8. Rolled oats. Not the flavored oatmeal packets, not the single-serve cups, and not the box covered with pictures of strawberries, blueberries, and honey when there's only a few pieces of dried fruit inside. The one you want is plain rolled oats in a large bag or container, which costs much less per bowl. That's the comparison that really matters. A nice-looking box may make you feel like you're paying for convenience, but most of the money is going toward the packaging, flavorings, and individually portioned packets. A large container of oats gives you more meals for less money, while letting you control the sweetness and portion size yourself. A basic bowl of oatmeal usually costs only a few cents, making it cheaper than sugary cereal, breakfast pastries, or grab-and-go breakfast foods. Oats keep you full longer. They release energy more slowly, so you're less likely to feel hungry again just an hour later. The simplest way to make them is with water. If you want more nutrition, stir in some dry milk. If you need more calories, add a spoonful of peanut butter or a little honey. Cinnamon improves the mild flavor without adding much to the cost. When you don't want to use much fuel, you can soak the oats until they're soft and eat them with your other ingredients. Ground oats can also become oat flour for pancakes, cookies, or baked goods. But one of their most surprising uses isn't at breakfast. A handful of oats can be mixed into ground meat with eggs and seasonings. It absorbs moisture and fat, helps the mixture hold together better, and lets the meat feed more people. This isn't some new trick from social media. Families have been doing it through difficult economic times for generations. Moms did it. Grandmothers did it. Not to fool anyone, but to make a pound of meat go farther while still serving a satisfying meal. Of course, plain oats can taste bland. They don't taste like pastries, and they certainly don't taste like a restaurant breakfast. But that's exactly the advantage. You can make them sweet or savory, mix them with milk, use them in baking, or add them to meat. The simpler a product is, the more easily it adapts to whatever else is in your kitchen. Before July is over, skip the expensive single-serve packets and check whether your family has a large container of plain rolled oats. Oats don't just make an inexpensive breakfast. They help meals keep you full longer and allow your more expensive ingredients to feed more people. 7. All-purpose flour. There's a difference between a family that stores bread and a family that stores the ability to make bread. One loaf only lasts a few meals. One bag of all-purpose flour opens the door to countless possibilities. With flour, water, salt, and oil, you can make flatbread, tortillas, biscuits, or fresh noodles. Not every recipe requires an oven. A skillet and a basic heat source are enough to turn dry ingredients into hot food. That's why flour isn't just another product sitting on the shelf. It's a capability. Look at a bag of flour and don't ask what it is. Ask how many different things it can become. Some of it can become breakfast bread. Another portion can become tortillas for beans and canned meat. A little can be used to thicken soups or sauces. Flour can also be coated onto vegetables, fish, or meat before pan frying, giving the food a different texture without buying processed products. That value becomes even clearer when packaged bread gets more expensive, sells out quickly, or doesn't store well. Instead of depending on finished products, you're storing the basic ingredient needed to make what you need. For long-term storage, white all-purpose flour is usually a better choice than whole wheat flour. Whole wheat flour contains more nutrients, but the natural oils in the bran and germ cause it to lose quality more quickly. White flour generally stays stable longer when kept sealed, dry, and away from heat. But there's one important warning. Don't stockpile flour just because it's cheap. A bag of flour can't turn itself into bread. If your family has never used it before, start with one simple recipe. Learn how to make flatbread in a skillet. Try making tortillas. Practice thickening soup with flour. The skills you build today will turn that bag of flour on your shelf into many meals later. Before July is over, don't just check how much flour you have. Check how many different meals you actually know how to make with it. Out of the 6 foods we've covered so far, which one do you use the most in your own kitchen? Dry milk, beans, tomatoes, salt, oats, or flour? Starting with the next item, this list shifts to foods that still work when time, electricity, or fuel are all limited. 6. Peanut butter. 8 hours after the power goes out, your kitchen is still intact. But the way you use it has completely changed. You no longer want to turn on the stove, boil water, or use up your backup fuel just to prepare a small meal. At that point, every decision starts with one simple question. Is there anything you can open and eat immediately that's enough to help your family get through the next few hours? That's exactly why peanut butter appears on almost every emergency food storage list. Not because it's a special food, but because very few foods are still this practical when almost everything else becomes inconvenient. No cooking, no water, no dishes, no special equipment. Just open the lid, and within seconds you have a ready source of energy. What makes peanut butter even more valuable is its balance of protein, fat, and high calories. Protein helps maintain muscle mass when food portions become smaller. Fat provides slow-burning energy that helps you stay full longer instead of feeling hungry again too quickly. Its high calorie density means even a small amount of food delivers tremendous value, especially when you're trying to stretch your food supply for several more days. Another advantage is how easily it pairs with simple foods. You can spread it on flatbread, eat it with crackers, stir it into oatmeal for extra protein, or combine it with a spoonful of honey to make a high-energy meal in less than a minute. Even if your kitchen is down to only a few basic ingredients, you still have several options instead of eating the same thing over and over. But sometimes the greatest value of peanut butter isn't its nutrition. It's its familiarity. When the power is out, daily routines are disrupted, and meals are no longer what they used to be. A familiar taste can help your family hold on to a sense of normal life in a situation that's anything but normal. For young children, it's still the food they know from everyday breakfasts. For many older adults, it's also much easier to eat and accept than many other emergency foods. During stressful times, that sense of familiarity can matter just as much as the calories on the plate. That said, peanut butter isn't right for every family. If someone has a peanut allergy, choose another protein source that's safe for them. When shopping, remember that natural peanut butter separates more quickly because it contains fewer stabilizers. Once opened, always keep it tightly sealed and use it within a reasonable amount of time to maintain the best quality. And don't stockpile more than you can realistically use just because it has a long shelf life. A jar of food only has value if your family is actually willing to open it and eat it. Peanut butter isn't a perfect food, but when time, clean water, and fuel all become resources that have to be conserved, very few foods can provide so much protein, fat, and calories in just a matter of seconds. 5. Canned tuna, salmon, and chicken. There's a moment many people never think about until it actually happens. The power still hasn't come back, and the freezer full of food suddenly turns into a countdown clock. With every passing hour, the value of that frozen meat slips away a little more. But right beside it, on the pantry shelf, the cans of tuna, salmon, and chicken haven't changed at all. They don't need electricity, they don't need refrigeration, and they don't depend on whether the cold supply chain is still working. That's the real reason these foods are always part of a well-prepared emergency food supply. Not because they're the most delicious source of protein, but because they continue doing their job long after fresh protein begins losing its advantage. Just open the can, and you can eat them straight from the container or add them to almost any meal without spending extra time preparing them. The next strength is their versatility. Tuna is easy to find, reasonably priced, and works well in sandwiches, pasta, or salads. Salmon has a richer flavor and pairs well with rice or crackers. Canned chicken fits into almost any meal, from soups and tortillas to rice or pasta. Simply changing the type of protein gives you a completely different meal without needing many additional ingredients. There are a few things worth keeping in mind, though. Many canned products are fairly high in sodium, so balance them with lower sodium foods and drink enough water. Don't stock only tuna. Rotating between tuna, salmon, and chicken helps keep your meals more varied and your diet better balanced. Once a can is opened, either use it all or store any leftovers properly. In an emergency, the value of a protein source isn't determined by how fresh it is. Its real value is that when the freezer can no longer protect your food, it can still feed your family just as well as the day you first put it on the shelf. 4. Dry pasta. Before every major storm, the same scene plays out in grocery stores across the country. Bread disappears first. Bottled water quickly starts disappearing from the shelves. Then, not long after that, boxes of dry pasta begin piling up in shopping carts. Not because pasta suddenly becomes scarce, but because so many people realize at the same time that it's one of the fastest foods to cook while using very little fuel. That's also dry pasta's greatest strength. It's inexpensive, easy to store, and needs only a short time on the stove before becoming the foundation for many different meals. When gas, firewood, or electricity all become resources that have to be carefully managed, saving a few minutes of cooking time for every meal is no longer just a convenience. It can save a meaningful amount of fuel over several days. Pasta is also easy to portion and works with almost everything else in your food supply. A little canned tomato turns into a simple pasta dish. Tuna adds protein. Beans provide extra fiber and help keep you full longer. Even with nothing more than cooking oil and a little salt, you can still prepare a meal with plenty of energy. Even the pasta water shouldn't go to waste. It can be used as the base for soup or to help thicken sauces, reducing waste when every resource needs to be used wisely. That said, choose the type of pasta your family actually enjoys eating. A case of inexpensive pasta doesn't have much value if nobody wants to eat it. For long-term storage, semolina pasta is usually a better choice than egg noodles because it stores more reliably. And no matter how convenient pasta is, it still requires water and a heat source to cook. So always include it as part of a plan for clean water and fuel. In an emergency, dry pasta doesn't just give you another meal. It helps turn the scattered ingredients in your pantry into many different meals, while conserving two of your most valuable resources: time and fuel. 3. White rice. White rice isn't the most nutritious food. It also isn't the most exciting thing on the table. But very few foods are as inexpensive, as versatile, and as effective at stretching an entire meal as white rice. That's why it's always the foundation of most long-term food storage plans. Rice's greatest strength is its efficiency. A relatively small amount of dry rice becomes many more servings once it's cooked. That keeps the cost per meal extremely low. More importantly, rice pairs with almost every source of protein. Beans make a simple but filling meal. Tomatoes become rice with sauce or a hearty stew. Canned chicken, salmon, or even a few eggs, if you still have them, can all become complete meals when served with rice. That's also how rice makes your entire food supply work more efficiently. A can of chicken or salmon doesn't become any larger after you open it, but served with rice, that same protein can feed more people or stretch into another meal. Even leftover meat or vegetables from the day before can be combined with rice to create something completely new instead of being thrown away. If you had to compare it to something, rice is like a savings account. It may not be the most exciting investment, but it's always there when you need it. Stored properly in an airtight container in a cool, dry place, white rice can maintain its quality for a very long time and remain ready to become the foundation of dozens of meals. That said, white rice still requires water and a heat source to cook, so include it as part of your plan for clean water and fuel. For long-term storage, white rice is also a better choice than brown rice because it stores more reliably. And no matter how useful it is, rice should never become your entire diet. Its greatest value isn't replacing other foods. It's helping your more expensive foods feed more people for a longer period of time. 2. Whole bean or instant coffee. No, coffee won't feed your family. But for millions of people, a morning without their usual cup of coffee is when a difficult situation suddenly feels much harder. Preparing for uncertain times isn't just about storing enough calories. Sometimes it's also about holding on to the routines that make life feel normal. If your family drinks coffee every day, buying a reasonable supply ahead of time can be just as worthwhile as many other items in your pantry. It helps you avoid buying it after prices change. And more importantly, it helps preserve your normal routine. Sometimes starting the morning the same way you always do is enough to make the rest of the day feel a little less stressful. Which type you choose depends on how you drink it. Instant coffee is the simplest option. Just add hot water and it's ready, making it ideal when both equipment and time are limited. Whole bean coffee usually delivers better flavor, but you'll need a grinder and the right brewing equipment. There's no single right choice for everyone. There's only the choice that fits your family's routine. One common mistake is buying a completely new brand just because it's on sale. Then, when it's finally time to use it, many people realize they don't actually like the taste. So buy the same coffee you already drink and divide it into smaller portions to reduce air exposure after opening. That said, coffee isn't a nutritional necessity, and it isn't something you should stockpile in excessive amounts. Even when it's stored well, the flavor gradually fades over time. If you need to limit caffeine, choose the option that best fits your needs. Being well prepared doesn't mean thinking only about survival. Sometimes it also means preserving the small things that make one morning feel like every other morning. And for millions of people, that first cup of coffee is one of those things. 1. Cooking oil. The number one item on this list isn't the biggest thing in your shopping cart. It doesn't come in eye-catching packaging, and many families don't think about it until the bottle is almost empty. But imagine your kitchen without a single drop of cooking oil. The rice is still there. The beans are still there. The pasta, flour, tomatoes, and canned meat are all still there. Yet many familiar meals suddenly become much harder to prepare. That's why cooking oil takes the number one spot. The greatest value of cooking oil isn't that it provides a lot of calories. It's that it ties together almost your entire food supply. With flour, it helps you make flatbread, tortillas, or simple biscuits. With rice, it turns plain rice into fried rice or richer rice dishes. With beans, it helps create stir-fries, soups, and heartier stews. Tomatoes need oil to become a well-rounded sauce. Even canned meat develops better flavor and texture when cooked with a little oil. Cooking oil also provides another benefit that's often overlooked. Fat helps your body absorb certain fat-soluble vitamins, while also helping you stay full longer. More importantly, just a little oil allows the same familiar ingredients to become many different meals instead of the same repetitive dishes over and over again. That doesn't mean cooking oil is something you should buy in huge amounts and leave sitting for years. Choose the type your family already uses, whether that's olive oil, canola oil, or a vegetable oil designed for high-heat cooking. Store it in a cool, dry place away from light. Always use the older bottle first, and stock only the amount you can rotate through within a reasonable period of time. After going through this entire list, you'll probably realize something. A pantry full of ingredients doesn't automatically mean you have a kitchen that's ready to function. Cooking oil is one of the key ingredients that turns bags of rice, cans of beans, dry pasta, and canned meat into real meals. Cooking oil doesn't replace the other 11 foods. It helps the other 11 foods become many more meals. After everything we've covered, the most important thing probably isn't buying all 12 items today. Open your kitchen cabinet, see what you already have. Choose the 3 items you're missing the most, and add them gradually. Write down the purchase date, use the older products first. Store only the amount your family will actually use, and focus on ingredients that work well together. Then, one weekend, while other people are rushing their shopping carts through grocery aisles that are already starting to empty, you may only need to open your pantry and know that you already have the ingredients you need. Being prepared isn't about buying as much as possible. It's about buying the right foods, storing them the right way, and making sure your family doesn't have to start from zero when circumstances change. Out of the 12 foods we covered today, which ones do you already have? And which ones are you still missing? Share your answer in the comments. In the next video, we'll turn these same 12 ingredients into practical, budget-friendly meals.